With the Rock Never Stops. I wanted to talk with y'all about the Detroit Pistons bench unit. I got into a cool little conversation with one of the cats who normally watches my videos. And of course, I always converse with y'all in the chat section, in the comment section. And if y'all got some good points, just might do a video on it. And we were talking about my suggestion that the Detroit Pistons take Chaz Lanier out of the University of Tennessee to be their 37th pick in this year's draft and to play that role that was previously occupied by Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley in terms of shooting off the bench. Now, here's the thing. I think I may have alluded to, or maybe even suggested and didn't even realize it, uh, that he takes their place, that he takes Malik Beasley's place. And I want to qualify that. I want to contextualize that. I'm speaking to not the role that he had last season. I'm speaking to the role that he would have next season. The starting unit is set. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Tobias Harris, Jalen Durant. That has all the talent in the world, and justifiably so. They will be given the reins to lead this ship, to lead this team. Those guys will be getting at least the top four between Cade, Ivy, Asar, and Durant. Should be playing upwards of 30 plus minutes a night, likely between 32 and 35 minutes a night. All four are healthy going into this offseason. Jaden Ivey was already getting ramped up for on court drills and being able to work on his game before the season ended in the playoffs. So he's already there, right? He's probably already working in the gym now with coaches and things like that. All this to say is each of them, I'm betting, are going to take a jump, are going to take a leap. The same way we've seen Cade take a jump, I expect Ivy to take a jump. I think he's going to become a consistent 20 plus points per game scorer on good efficiency. You're going to see Asar Thompson become consistent with his ability to create his own shot, get downhill. I know a lot of you want him to improve his 3-point shot. I don't think that that's what he needs to do right now in order to become a high level, consistent player for this team. When you saw his brother Amen Thompson, he wasn't knocking down threes or mid-range pull-up jumpers, right? He wasn't doing all those. He didn't have the bag to, step backs and all that. None of that. He just knew how to get downhill and finish. I think Asar Thompson can take a simple step such as that to learn how to finish around the rim, and all of a sudden he becomes a 15 to 18 points per game scorer on top of 6 to 8 rebounds, 4 to 5 assists a game, plus 1 to 2 blocks and steals each game. Phenomenal jump, right? Jalen Duren, the same. All that's to say is they are going to take up substantial minutes, which means that the bench unit is going to look a lot different than it did last season. Last season, we needed Malik Beasley to come off the bench and give us almost 20 points a game for us to have a chance to compete and win most games. That's not going to be the case anymore with Jaden Ivey. When Jaden Ivey is back, those guys coming off the bench are going to be filling in around Cade, Ivy, and Asar and Duren. So if you're going to have more than likely either Cade or Ivy on the court at all times to be your lead guard, your point of attack, the guy who's going to be an engine for your offense, you're going to have complementary guys around them. I think Marcus Sasser, Ron Holland, and guys of that nature are also going to get a bump in minutes. Now, I've talked about this before, and I'm going to get into more depth in this video on just what I think the future outlook of this bench unit is going to be and who they could potentially add to it. All that's to say is to start the foundation of this conversation. Understand that the bench unit roles are going to look substantially different than they did last season. We will no longer need a Malik Beasley to give us 20 points off the bench. We're going to need collectively for our bench unit to be able to get us maybe close to 20 points collectively off the bench because we're going to have so much firepower in that starting unit. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. The bench unit, let's look at who we currently have under contract for next season. And then we'll go into potential additions and free agency and draft. The starting bench unit that we have right now: Marcus Sasser, Ron Holland. We have Simone Fontecchio, Isaiah Stewart. Now, these are guys who are already in rotation to some degree last season and still under contract. What that means is they'll likely have a jump to fill into a role, a significant role next season. They have continuity, they understand the system, they understand the expectation, um, and they'll have a jump on whoever else that we bring in. But it doesn't mean that they can't still use support. Let me start off with the guy that I'm probably most excited about. Now, I know some of you are gonna think it's Ron Holland. I actually still believe in Marcus Sasser, bro. I still believe in Marcus Sasser. I think Marcus Sasser is going to have a big jump next year. I expect him to come into next season and basically claim that six-man first guard off the bench role. And when I say claim it, I mean he's got to come in guns blazing. He's got to go into summer league and show, yeah, he figured out how to run the offense, facilitate, but also still how to get his, which is what we need. We don't need a Marcus Sasser who turns into uh, some facilitating, TJ McConnell type of guy. We need him to come in like Peyton Pritchard. We need to see Marcus Sasser come in and say, "Hey, you can run the offense, but you're a bucket. You're a bucket. You have a burner. You can knock down threes with regularity, whether it's in transition, in the open court, off catch and shoot, snatchbacks, on the move, all that stuff. We want to see that shooting on full display and run the second unit. I think he's going to be able to do it. I think he's going to get into the Rico Hines run, stuff like that. I think he's going to be working with the coaches. He's going to come in next training camp and snatch that role. I expect him to be getting anywhere between 12 to 16 minutes per game, regular minutes. So I think he's going to have a big year. And I mean averaging maybe double digits. I don't think it would be hard for Marcus Sasser to average double digits a game. I think the hardest part was what he had to learn last season, which was facilitating, running that second unit, and the expectations within this system. But I don't think that he's going to have a hard time with scoring. He's a three-level scorer who's got the full bag. He probably has one of the best bags on the team outside of Cade Cunningham. And I think it's going to be on full display next season because if it's not, I think he's going to turn into a journeyman. I think the Detroit Pistons are going to move on quickly and they're going to find a veteran and somebody else to bring in. So he basically has to put up or shut up. This is it. And I think he's going to do it. I think he's got that dog in him. I think he's going to be somebody who's reliable, and you're going to see moments when needed. He's going to slide into that starting lineup when needed. Injury, knock on wood, happens. I think he's going to be ready for it. Now, let me get to my next guy, Ron Holland. I like Ron Holland a lot. I think he's got so much more in the bag. I posted on X a video of him from the G League Ignite program. The reason why I did that is so that you could see his full bag. So you can see just everything that he could potentially bring to the table. He has that little mid-range pull-up jump shot. You can post you a little bit, fade over the shoulder. Got a little pull-up off the bounce. He has a little bag to his game in that little mid-range area, on top of getting downhill to the rim and getting out in transition. We all know he has the straight line drives, getting to the rim and finishing, getting to the free throw line, and he even showed us a much improved three-point shot as the year went on. I think going into next season, you're going to see Ron Holland be that first wing off the bench. He's going to be able to play anywhere from that 2, 3, and sometimes 4 spot next year. He already has a good enough body type, 6'7", about 215 pounds. I think he's going to get even stronger, potentially closer to 220 at 6'7". He's going to be able to provide some positional versatility, which is really important off your bench. You don't want to be a team that only has one athlete on the perimeter. And now they're going to have Ivy, Cade, Asar, and Ron Holland. I fully expect there to be games where they're a part of a closing unit just because of what they bring in terms of speed, defensive intensity, switchability, and ability to get out in transition and put pressure on the rim. I think there's just so much complementarity there. All that's to say is I think Ron Holland is someone who's going to get a solid 15 to 20 minutes a game. Now, we move on to Simone Fontecchio. He's going to be in the last year of a 2-year deal that he signed with the Detroit Pistons. I don't think he's going to be guaranteed minutes. Look, even when he was at his best the season before last, this past season, um, he was a shooter. He was a shooter who could do a lot off the catch and shoot and the move, and that's an important role, but he was still highly limited. Didn't necessarily rebound or defend or create his own shot, or play make for others in a way that you might want or need, especially when you're looking at a playoff run. If we see anything in this playoffs, is that you have to have guys who can do a variety of things because your shot is not always going to be there for you. We see guys struggling with their shot and they're still contributing to winning. Simone Fontecchio hasn't shown that he's someone who can be relied upon to contribute to winning when his shot is not on. In fact, at times he can be a liability. Sometimes he's doing just too much. And so I don't think he's going to have guaranteed minutes. I think he's going to be in a fight with Bobby Clinton. He was their last year's draft pick. I think he was drafted in the second round. He's a guy with a lot to prove. 6'10, has some shooting ability, uh, really good passer for his size and position. He has ability to get out in transition, makes good decisions. He also moves well, really well without the ball, which is really important because when you're filling in a role, playing amongst other stars, you want to be able to make sure that you're effective, even if you don't have the ball. And so I love that he moves well without the ball. Areas of concern, his rebounding for being 6'10, you would expect better rebounding. And on top of that, he's a bit of a lackluster defender. I don't think it's because of effort. I think it's because of just IQ and attentiveness. And he's having to learn that to play at the next level, he's going to have to step his game up and become a better defender, period. But if he can learn from anybody, I think Tobias Harris is a wonderful veteran for him to learn from. With that said, he's still going to be in a fight with Simone Fontecchio for those minutes at that forward position. It's likely the weakest position on the bench for the Detroit Pistons next season. And then you have Isaiah Stewart, our incumbent backup center. You know he's going to be everything for us. By the end of the season, I mean, he was putting moves on Evan Mobley, now reigning Defensive Player of the Year, putting it behind his back, finishing with the offhand, off foot. He's showing so much growth to his game. I think it's only going to get better with the continuity on this team, the confidence that they're riding on. I think he comes in the next season that much better, which is why I think our starters are only going to average about 30 minutes to 32 minutes a game because they're not going to be needed as heavily. I think we have a strong bench unit, even if it's just Marcus Sasser, Ron Holland, and Isaiah Stewart. Those three, I think, can cover the sixth, seventh, and eighth man off the bench and be just fine. And be just fine, especially with our starting unit. But now let's get to the free agency. We have Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley. We have Lindy Waters and Dennis Schroeder. Now, I fully believe Dennis Schroeder's gone. He's going to want to be someplace where he has an opportunity to play significant minutes. And when I say significant, I mean 20 plus minutes a game, if not being a starter. I think he can go to someplace like Miami, Phoenix. Um, Shoot, he might be able to go to the Lakers. He can go to a lot of different teams right now and start and be their best point guard and point of attack defender right now. Right now, he's someone who has proven he can play in the playoffs, proven that he can play at a high level. Yo, what's good, Chris Harris? What's good, man? Um, I'll check it out in a little bit. I'll check out your live stream in a little bit after this. But it's to say that I think Dennis Schroeder is gone, but his role is something that we still need to fill. And that's a veteran who can be a high level processor, a problem solver in the playoffs. When everything gets intense and everybody's a little bit clenched and a little bit tight, we need somebody who's been there before, who knows what to do. Now, I think next season, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham are going to handle the lion's share of decision making, even if Jaden Ivey still has to learn, cut his teeth in the playoffs, which he will. But it's to say that they can still use a veteran guard off the bench. I don't think it's going to be Dennis Schroeder. And I don't necessarily believe that it's going to be Malik Beasley or Tim Hardaway Jr. either. I wouldn't be shocked if we retain one of them, but we're not going to overpay for either of them. There's no reason to. When you have the return of Jaden Ivey, he's going to be taking 30 minutes a game at that off guard position next to Cade, and at times point guard position when Cade is out, plus Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland. There's less of a need for a pure shooter off the bench. And this is why I suggested that the Detroit Pistons draft Chaz Lanier with the 37th pick in the draft. Because I believe that Chaz Lanier, I think, is a better version of both of them. I think he's every bit the shooter that Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley are. He may not have the same confidence from being in the league for as long as they have. Now they're in their prime. They've seen it all. They've seen the different coverages. They've already made their mistakes. They've figured out who they are. They can play to their strengths. They can come in and be relied upon immediately. But I don't think that they're going to be as needed, which means that they're more than likely going to want larger roles or at least a bigger paycheck. But for the Detroit Pistons, because it's a smaller role, there's no need to overpay for such a small role. The role is probably going to be 10 to 15 minutes a game. That's it. With Ron Holland taking a step next year, Marcus Sasser as well, that role for a pure shooter who's not a facilitator, who's not necessarily a playmaker, who's not a high level defender, who's not someone who is going to collapse the defense, getting to the rim and things of that nature. That role for a pure shooter is going to be as small as it's ever been for the Detroit Pistons. So I don't expect Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley to necessarily be back. If they are, great. I'm not mad at it. But definitely don't overpay for a small reduced role. Then you have somebody like Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters is another option for this team. If they don't decide to go with the shooter in the draft, or even if they do, Lindy Waters could be a great guy to bring back on a veteran minimum contract. Bring him in there. He has continuity with playing with Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State. He's been in the league on winning teams with the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Golden State Warriors. He's a guy who can be relied upon to have good positional size, about 6'6", 6'7". He's a dead-eye shooter, but he also just makes winning plays. Many times he's shown just really good awareness on the court, getting the ball, finding an open guy, making the extra pass, and knocking down key shots. And at his size, 6'7", about 205, 210 pounds, he's going to be more effective defensively because of that size versus someone like a Malik Beasley, 6'3" and a half. Right now, Chaz Lanier is also 6'3" and a half, but he also has a 6'9" wingspan. That would be longer than Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. And he's about 215 pounds. So he's closer to the physical stocky size of someone like Desmond Bain, who came to the league at 220. But the difference is Desmond Bain has a 6'4". Yes, he has a minus wingspan, which means that your total wingspan is less than your height. So Desmond Bain is 6'5" with a 6'4" wingspan. Chaz Lanier is about 6'4" and a half, 6'5", with a 6'9" wingspan, meaning that he's going to be able to guard wings. He's going to be able to contest and put a hand up. And when you watch his game, man, you gotta love his game. When you see Chaz Lanier's game out there, man, he has every bit of that quick trigger that you see from a Desmond Bain, Malik Beasley, elite 3-point shooters. It doesn't need to be in his hand but a split second. He's got range, whether it's on the move, off the bounce, relocating, coming off screens, dribble handoffs. He's actually shown some pretty good ability getting downhill to the rim, creating his own shot. And most importantly, as I mentioned with Bobby Clinton, he scores at a high level moving off the ball. When you have Cade with the ball, Ivy with the ball, Asar with the ball, you want a shooter who doesn't need the ball in their hands, who can catch and shoot, and if they run him off that three-point line, can backdoor and cut to the basket. And you watch those highlights. He's done that over and over and over. I think he could be a great contributor, especially because he stayed in college for all 4 years. He's coming in as a matured, developed player. Now, I know sometimes we get confused because sometimes they've categorized older players as individuals who are done in their development, and you can't expect much upside or a high ceiling for them. I think it's the exact opposite when it comes to someone like Chaz Lanier. When you have averaged 20 something points a game or close to it in college and have been dominant, have been all conference or all American, when you've been a leader, when you have been the captain of your team, when you've been somebody who's been relied upon in big clutch moments to have big games and you've come through, you step in with a different level of confidence. And the league is shifting away from just freak athletes, whom many times that's who we consider having the highest ceiling, to now shifting towards high skill and some skills at a freakish level. Shooting, ball handling, ability to get downhill, guys who can rebound or defend in the paint, right? If you have an elite skill, there's a high ceiling for you in the NBA. And I think somebody like Chaz Lanier can come in and have a high ceiling. Now, this leads me to our young guys who were in the G League last year, Bobby Clement and Tolu Smith. I know there's another guard, I forget his name. I don't think he's necessarily a part of this team's future. He's built size-wise much like Marcus Sasser, and he's not better than Marcus Sasser. So there's not really much reason to bring him up onto this roster. But Bobby Clement, 6'10", I talked about him a little bit. He's got a nice game. I think he's going to have to fight for those minutes. I think he's a true forward. And when I say a true forward, I mean he's someone who can play the 3 or the 4 almost equally well. I don't think he's elite yet, but he has a lot of potential with his size, his skill level, his versatility, and his overall game. But he's going to have to fight for it because I think that is going to be the biggest position to upgrade for the Detroit Pistons. Bring in another forward, but a veteran forward who can come in, play at a high level, who can uh, elevate this team's ceiling by being a problem solver, someone who can defend with versatility, but who understands what it means to win in the playoffs. They know what to do. Now, I've mentioned before on my channel guys that I'm excited about in free agency for them to target. I like someone like Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown, who started off with the Detroit Pistons, has gone elsewhere, won an NBA championship with the Denver Nuggets. Then he went to Indiana, Toronto, and then now he's with the New Orleans Pelicans. He's bounced around. He's only about 6'5", but much like a Josh Hart, he plays like he's 6'10". He can handle the ball, he can distribute, he can play make, and get out in transition. He rebounds like a demon. He defends up and down the line, 1 through 4. He's strong, explosive. I think he could be a great veteran who's won at the highest level, who's an unrestricted free agent that they can go after. If I'm honest with you, that's who I would target if I'm them. I think he's only like 28 years old, but he's somebody that can be relied upon. Let me double check his age real quick. That is an important factor. He is boom, boom. Y'all help me out in the chat. Yeah, Bruce Brown is 28 years old. He's 28. I think he's somebody who can come in and immediately contribute for the Detroit Pistons. He's played in Detroit before, so he's familiar with the organization and the town. I think he's someone who can just fill in immediately and be a contributor. Now, here's the thing. We still need to know what these guys are going to bring. I didn't really necessarily mention Tolu Smith too much because I think he's going to be a third string center. I also didn't mention my man Paul Reed. Forgive me, Paul Reed. You had a great year for us, and you don't deserve to be disrespected by being not listed in terms of our free agents that we have to make a decision on. You had a great year for us, but I think we also got exposed that you're just too small. You're too small. If we don't have enough positional size up and down the line to be able to insulate you in the playoffs, you're going to struggle. Even though you did contribute at times for us and you were good, really good in certain moments, I think in the long run, we're going to need some more size. So we see the New York Knicks with double big lineups. So we see teams like the Milwaukee Bucks, they're likely getting broken up this offseason. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. You look at teams moving forward, you need positional size, especially on the interior. You need guys who can finish, rebound, box out, get us key rebounds, and finish inside. I think we go for an upgrade at that position. I think Tolu Smith, he has to come in training camp and demand that position. Because this is what I've said before many times. The Detroit Pistons are no longer in the developmental process. No longer. When Trajan Langdon says he's invested in these young guys to see what he has, because he understands we didn't have a single minute with Cade, Ivy Asar, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren together in the starting lineup. We didn't have a single minute of that. So we don't know what that looks like. Those guys are invested in, but it's not necessarily to develop them as much as it is to assess who's going to move forward to be a part of a championship run. Now, when you see that, you have to understand what that means for everybody else. If these guys are going to get the bulk of the minutes and they're young and they're going to have their own learning curve, not everybody can be on the learning curve, which is why Marcus Sasser, Ron Holland have to come in ready. Tolu Smith, you've got to come in ready. You should come into summer league like I'm about to be a monster. If you're Tolu Smith, you got to be thinking, I'm in every Rico Hines run. I'm in, and I love Rico Hines run because it allows for teams to bring their own roster, and they'll bring a bunch of guys where they play together at a high level against other NBA players, where they can build continuity, build chemistry, show what they've been working on. They can also work with coaches there as well to develop their game and then step on the court and play. All that's to say is he needs to come in smoking. He needs to say, "Hey, you know what? I'm right on Isaiah Stewart's heels. The moment they need me, I'm ready. I'm trying to show out." That's the type of energy that he has to be on, because if he's not, they're gonna have to fill that role. And I won't be shocked if they look at veterans who could potentially come in and play that role as well. And one of the main ones that have been brought up plenty of times is my man Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks. Bobby Portis is the type of big who can play the 4 or the 5 position off the bench. He can shoot, he's playoff tested, and he's someone who is a dog. I think he's Detroit basketball through and through. He could be our John Sally. He could be that guy who can come off the bench, start in a pinch, and give us buckets. Just go to work. He's going to rebound. He's going to score in a variety of ways. He also stretches the defense. He allows us to maintain spacing while at the same time have reliable scoring, especially in the half court. He can post up, especially against mismatches. He plays a physical brand of basketball. I think he's a great option for us, especially because it looks like he's going to opt out as the Milwaukee Bucks look to get dismantled. I don't think he sticks around for the next regime, right? They're going to have to overpay him to get him to stick around. But I think what ends up happening is he opts out and he goes someplace else. A nice sign and trade with Simone Fontecchio's contract, maybe Beasley or Tim Hardaway Jr., package those two, go get Bobby Portis. Another potential free agent acquisition that I have for this team, and he may not necessarily be a free agent as much as somebody that they can look to trade for. They can go out and try to trade for him. It is Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart is the type of guard off the bench that's going to bring a lot of that dog, that competitiveness, that defense, that physicality, the ability to defend multiple positions, who's not scared of the moment, who can come in a playoff game and be a major contributor for you. I think he's the type of guy that allows you to elevate your backcourt, and it takes a lot of pressure off everyone else because he can lead and guide the rest of the team. I think Marcus Smart is 30. How old is he now? He's now 31 years old. He'll be in a contract year, which means I always say this: players always play great in a contract year. Always. Always. They're in a contract year, they're going to hoop. This is likely going to be Marcus Smart's last contract before he's out the league. So I expect him to have a big year. I think trading for him, bringing him in, and saying, hey, you give us good minutes, carve out a role for you, 15 to 20 minutes a game. I think you can play that for us. Now, it might eat into Marcus Sasser's minutes. It might eat into Ron Holland's minutes a little bit. I do think both of them will still get consistent minutes. I think this has the potential, these Detroit Pistons have the potential to be an extremely deep team, which is necessary when you want to stay healthy and fresh for the playoffs. I think the Detroit Pistons have an opportunity to bring in some veterans like a Marcus Smart, like a Bruce Brown, like a Chris Middleton, trading for somebody like that, or a Bobby Portis. And those veterans will be able to subsidize a lot of the learning curve for the Detroit Pistons. In other words, they'll know what to do when other guys are still trying to figure it out. Make no mistake about it, next year, the target is going to be on the Detroit Pistons' back. They will be looking for the Detroit Pistons. Last season, wasn't nobody checking for us. Well, nobody checking for us, and that allowed us to get the jump on teams. Go into their arena and they go, "Oh, these guys are weak," and then we get the jump on them. We end up having an opportunity to blow them out. Nobody was checking for Malik Beasley to be a six man of the year candidate, right? Nobody was checking for him to be the NBA league leaders in 3-point shot makes. Nobody was looking out for him. This year, they'll be looking out for the Pistons. This coming season, they'll be looking out for the Pistons. And so we need to have guys who can explain to them what it's like to have the target on your back, right? Charlotte, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta. All these teams are going to be gunning for the Pistons. All the teams that just missed out on the playoffs or were a lower seed than the Detroit Pistons are going to be looking up at the Detroit Pistons saying, we've got to get them. And being such a young team, that's going to be a challenge because I don't think they've ever faced being the target as a team in the NBA yet. It's going to be a new experience. Now, when we look at the outlook for this team in the long run, as I've said before, we have our championship core. What we're looking for next season is how these pieces fit together. If they're actually able to level up to be a part of a championship run, I think they are. I've been saying it since last summer. Everybody who is needed for this team to take a jump is already on the roster. Nobody on the outside is going to come in and save them. There's no need. Some of you have suggested Michael Porter Jr., some of you have suggested Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't think they're going to be worth it for us. I really love Jabari Smith Jr., but I think that the Houston Rockets re-sign him, extend him, and he's going to be in their starting lineup and in their long-term plans. I think we are in a position to take our time. The Detroit Pistons are in a position to be intentional and build much like the Oklahoma City Thunder did. Remember, they weren't going out and getting big time free agents or trades until they knew that they were in this moment to make a championship run. When they said, we're ready, that's when they went out and got Hartenstein. That's when they went out and got Alex Caruso, when they knew they were ready. Until then, they were building through the draft. They were building within their core. And when the time was right, they made the necessary trades. I don't think this is that moment yet for the Detroit Pistons. I think they are a year before they're in that moment. Next season, Tobias Harris should still be our incumbent veteran in that starting lineup. Pulling up our roster real quick. That's the wrong one. This one here. Oh, look at this roster real quick. All right. So Tobias Harris still has one more year on his contract. It's an expiring deal. I wouldn't be shocked if we extend it. I don't think it'll be at 25 mil. I think it'll be close to like 18, 15 to 18. I think he's extremely reliable, even if it's eventually as a bench player. But I would love to see him here for another 2, 3 years. I think if there's one veteran that we have to make sure sticks around, it's probably Tobias Harris. I think he's a guy who's great in the locker room. He's such a calming presence. He always seems to know what to do. I think that's a guy that we make sure sticks around, especially because we have a thin front court right now in terms of who's proven. Duran, Stewart, and him, right? So I think that's where we look to go to maintain our veteran leadership. All that's to say is, over the coming years, after next season, we're going to be in our championship window. After next season, we will be knocking on the door. So by the time the 26-27 season starts, the Detroit Pistons will be knocking on the door. They will be in that position that Indiana was in. That I don't think they'll be quite like a Cleveland, Boston. I think they'll be somewhere around New York, in that New York, Indiana range, where they're a team who is maybe a piece away, or maybe they just acquired that piece. Like I wouldn't be shocked if they fill that starting power forward role next summer. Next summer. So when I think about this bench unit, I'm thinking for the short term and the long term. How do you continue to develop these young guys, not in terms of letting them learn their skill and learn the ropes? I mean, develop in terms of, can you be a part of the core for a championship team? I need to see it. It's time to put up or shut up. And you need guys who complement that still give them that opportunity, not necessarily guys who steal those minutes. Because signing guys who overlap what other guys already gives you only leaves a greater hole in the area that neither of them fill. So you want to have guys who have the versatility to fill the holes that other guys can't. All right. So with that said, I think our bench unit is going to be legit. I think it's going to be good. I'm here for an exciting summer. Um, I think Ivy, Asar, Duran, even Cade, they have so much to improve upon. And I think we're nowhere near their ceiling in terms of what they're going to become. But they're still going to have a significant jump next year. I think Cade gets up to maybe second team All NBA next year, if not first team, depending on how things shake out. Um, I think Jaden Ivey is a fringe All Star next year. I think Asar Thompson is a fringe All Star, if not All Star. And Duran can be a fringe All Star, if not an All Star. So our starting lineup is set. Our bench, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people. I think people are going to realize just how talented Marcus Sasser and Ron Holland really are. And they're going to get some major burn for us and have some great games. I think they're going to win games for us. I think they're going to come off the bench and just be so explosive defensively, offensively, getting out in transition, making shots. I think they're going to be one of the tougher bench units for teams to deal with, especially when you're able to stagger Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. All that to say, I'm excited for next year. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And continue to support your local grassroots YouTuber. I know there's a lot of big time channels out there with thousands of subscribers. I give respect for those who look out for those who maybe only have 1,000, maybe only have 500. Support everybody sharing what they think about your team. All right. With that, I'm out of here. I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.